Alrighty, hello to all. Here today in the first day of patch 0.9.5. This is marking, of course, the beginning of the dockyard event with the Odin, where you can earn a tier 8 premium, the Odin, or earn a discount on her rather, kind of similar to the dockyard event of the Puerto Rico, but somewhat less questionable. Just going to open the preview here, just doing my first login cycle. Ouija art department as usual, kicking it out of the park. Where I'm gonna earn apparently a Garage Spay copy. Yes. But we haven't done very much, so I need to do some directives, so I'll get to that later. But first of all on this patch, back to the major point. We are going to be testing out the new Russian Heavy, because, well, I can. First let me take a look at my shores. Okay, apparently you can't earn the T9 yet, but you can earn the Nevsky. So, as you can see, I did regrind my Donskoi somewhat over the past few patches, so I have 250,000 free experience on my Demitri Donskoi, which means I can research the Alexander Nevsky. So 17 million, and now we have a Nevsky. So Alexander Nevsky, a Russian tier 10 light cruiser. So let's take a look at what we got. First off, armor. I'm going to be doing this review a bit differently because I don't actually know how I want to spec this out. So 25mm bow and stern, pretty standard, and then 25mm upper belt, as typical for a light cruiser. The deck, however, is 30. Pretty lightly armored turrets and a 140mm belt, so nothing particular about that. Strip away the nose, however, and you'll see some 50mm plates. Alright, it's interesting. So it's going to be somewhat difficult to punch through this with cruiser armor. Strip away that. And the citadel is fairly raised. So it's fairly raised above the waterline. So we have it's not turtleback because there's no angled plates, but there is a bit of layered armor. Because there's going to be this armor belt here. And the athwartship casemate armor as well. Oh wait, that's a frontal plate. So it doesn't look like there's too many layers, unlike that of the Petropavlos. Just 2 layers and then 40mm citadel deck. Fairly standard citadel shape, stretching between the guns. So armor is going to be not too substantial. Pretty standard light cruiser armor. Do note, however, that it does have that extended icebreaker, which extends all the way through to the bow. So getting citadel through the nose is going to be uncommon, I would imagine. 50,000 hit point pool, so still 10,000 higher than Zhao, and surprisingly 19% for torpedo protection, which is pretty high for a light cruiser. Artillery-wise, we're using 180s, just like the Donskoi, but we've gone down from 4x3 to 4x2, so they're twins instead. However, the rotation time has gone down quite a bit, 18 seconds, so they must turn fairly quickly. 13% chance of fire. So the real question is, do we want IFHE with these rapid firing guns? We have 30mm of penetration, which means we're always going to pen cruiser plate, but do we want to be able to pen battleship plate is the question. The rate of fire of 6 seconds is already fairly high, and the range of 19 kilometers seems fairly sufficient. Also note the 1,000 meter initial shell velocity, so we'll see. I think for now I'm going to mount it, but we'll see how much HE or AP I end up using. It also has torpedo tubes, same as the Donskoi, really, those self-defense tubes, and let's say like 293 base. Well, 6.9 kilometer range though. This is Worcester range. How's it spread in terms of auras? So it's majority. Majority is the mid-range, which engages at 4 kilometers, and then it's fairly low amount of damage. Actually, no, the long range is 179. 8 puffs of flak as well. Jesus Christ. So just for reference, the booster has 6 puffs of flak, and it's only with defensive fire active with the slot 6 AA module that it reaches 8. So it starts with booster levels of flak and whoa, 36 knots of speed, just like the Donskoi, extremely fast. Concealment 16 base, so kind of poor. Slot 1 we're definitely going to run main armaments. I do have a spare radar consumable. I'm pretty sure it's a 12 km Russian radar, standard one. Not any of the special ones. Okay, yeah, so we're going to get a 36-second radar module. I don't know if I actually need main battery mod with 18-second traverse time, so I'm actually going to start with ASM. Actually, it's between these 3 modules. I have heard that the Nevsky dispersion is pretty trolly, so I'm going to start with ASM. 18 seconds is a fairly fast turn time. I don't want to start and stop fast, or do I want to turn fast? What's my rudder shift? 11.5. Pretty long. For reference, that's kind of close to Alaska. Alaska is about 12.5, if I'm not mistaken. 13, yeah. So taking 20% off would be 2 seconds off. Yeah, I think I'll take rudder shift off. We'll see how much I play in the open, but with 19 kilometers of range, I would imagine open water is not too difficult. 16-kilometer detection. Let's go down a little bit. 14.7 without a captain. And last but not least, 19 kilometers of range means I should be able to take a reload. See what our perma-camo looks like. It's not bad. Nothing special, but it's not bad. Oh, the alternate one's kind of hot. Kind of looks like a small Stalingrad. But don't have enough for perma-camo right now, so we'll make that decision later. Do have to decide about the Odin as well, if I can accumulate 200 more. We'll just put on a Shadow Lurker. I have a whole bunch of those. So that's it for flags. Now the critical question is, do I want an IFHE captain? So I don't have a captain ready for, and I don't have that much elite captain experience, but I do have several spare captains, as you can see. This is a destroyer captain. Can also take one from an existing ship, of course, which is what I might end up doing. I could take my Donskoi captain, but do note my Donskoi captain has expert marksman, which is probably unnecessary. Chapayev captain and Shores. Well, I'm going to be using my Shores captain. I want someone with superintendent. This Chapayev captain actually looks ideal. So we're going to borrow this Chapayev captain. So we are going to be running IFHE at least for this first test run, but we're going to offset it a little bit with Demolition Expert and Fire Flags. This build looks pretty good. 18-point captain. I have 1 point left. So that's probably just going to go into preventive maintenance. Alright, well, this is going to be it. It's going to be the first game in the Alexander Nevsky. Let's see how it goes. Queue is probably swarming with new ships, I would imagine. It's kind of early in the day, so not that busy yet. Hopefully, though, the queue doesn't take too long to get into. Now, I'm not personally a super tester, nor do I participate in the public test server, so I don't usually get to test this stuff in advance, so we will be getting a first impressions. Looks like I have one of my more talented clanmates on the enemy team. And I also have a Steel Whale, the Shikishima. A Yamato variant is also out on this patch, so ostensibly this should be interesting. So Treasure Verse is quite good, as predicted. 12.8 kilometer detection with the captain on. So it's not quite Wooster or Minotaur, obviously, but it's quite responsive. I haven't had the chance yet to fire the guns. Let's see the gun angles. So they're not great. They're good though. I wouldn't say they're poor. So I'm screening for a La Terrible at this cap, so do need to be a bit careful. I wonder how they are rearward. You're gonna have to be careful because in this open water area, right as I crest in front of this island here, I'm not gonna be able to turn that well. Rudder shift is sluggish, but my speed is very good. Can already tell. Bismarck. And what's my reload after reload module? 5.3 seconds. So it's kind of like a Donskoi variant. Enemy Alexander Nevsky in the distance. Gonna assume a kiting position. I have control of most of the cap, but the La Terrible is not gonna be able to smoke anyway. I'm gonna be giving a significant amount of broadside to that Amagi if I reverse in. So, got to be a bit careful. My La Terrible is openly firing when there's a Nevsky with 1000 meter shell velocity. And quite clearly he gets reset. I'm spotted now. Not by something in the cap though. Oh, I have IFHE, might as well make use of it. That's what was spotting me, potentially. Dunk a pot shot over there. This Massachusetts is gonna ram me and adjust my angle. And by adjust, I mean, well, it's gonna make it so I can't move. So not great there. I don't have radar coverage over the entirety of the cap, so that's why I'm not radaring yet. Oops, slammed some shells into the Massa superstructure. Gonna pop it anyway just to see if he's not on the edge. And he is indeed on the edge, so gonna have to reverse back in the 30 seconds. I do 30 knots. Gunnery's comfortable. Just like the Donskoi though, I'm a light cruiser, so didn't want to take too many risks. Kiev is still not fireable upon. Finally score a fire. My radar's about to time out. I just want to see the last 5 seconds if I can catch him, but the answer is no. Do catch a brief glimpse of the destroyer. It's a Kitakaze. At this point though, I'm under fire from 3, so I'm going to start accelerating away. Shooting this Kiev just to see how comfortable the gunnery is. Double fire on that Amagi. Remember, there's an island in front of me. He's giving quite a bit of broadside, so I'm actually going to try out the AP. Oof. These are some rail shells if I've ever seen them. Only 1 penetration, but it'll do. Ooh, 3,000 there. My 25mm section's eating quite a bit of damage. Oh, there's an Agir on the other side, another ship I'm gonna have to look to acquire. I do have the free experience for it. Is it good? Probably not, but do I care? Not particularly. I'm broadsiding at the moment, which means our first impression could end very shortly if I don't correct this angle before the Amagi comes in around the corner. Oh, Flying Doge is dead. Guess he made a mistake on the other side. Now, even though I have flat Russian arcs, though, they're not super flat. Didn't manage to hit that Kiev, by the way, because I'm bad at shooting. But this time, with a little bit of course correction, able to clean him up quite easily, nailing him very comfortably with 2 rail shells. In range of that Bismarck that's rounding the corner, I am fully broadside. There's 2 destroyers over there that Kitakazi has left. I'm actually going to push up and contest because my Ostergotland is moving in that direction. Oh, Bismarck is definitely looking at me. The 5-second reload is actually quite comfy. And unfortunately, Kitakazi does manage to dispatch my Ostergotland even though he had a bit of warning. They probably bumped into each other at fairly close range. So I'm going to actually intercept using this rock. Well, it would be nice to keep farming battleships and potentially win my first game that way. It's not the goal necessarily. I'm testing the efficacy of the ship. He's going to gun towards decap with just a Neptune and a Nevsky on the flank, so not too much in the ways of defense there for it. Bismarck's quite broadside, and with a 1000-meter shell velocity, able to quite comfortably dish out the damage. Long range, not too great. Des Moines at 15.8. Taking quite a bit of damage at this point, so I'm gonna pop my first heal. Very Des Moines-like reload at this point. Gonna kill off this Des Moines, underlet that first salvo. Something else shot at me, probably the Amagi. Kiev well inside my range. Alright, who is still shooting me? And you can see even at 17 kilometers against a speed boosted Kiev, I can reach out quite easily. The Kitakazi is stalking me with torpedoes, apparently. Seriously, who is shooting me? It's irritating. Smoke screen appears there. So that must be the Kita. I must be getting bombarded by long-range shells. Oh, it's the enemy Nevsky. I see. He's blind firing me at 21 kilometers, so he is going for a range module spec. Gonna turn my turrets 180 just to see how it goes. The Kitakazi is right outside this upper gap, so that's how far I need to push before I can deploy my radar. I'm spotted. What could possibly outspot me? Oh, it's apparently an Agir. German 120mm supercruiser. I'm gonna make my turn now. Also, this guy's a whale. He has the Nordic camo. But since he's broadsiding, let's see if I can punch through. Let's try it against the belt. Not getting any citadels, but don't really need to. Very impressive sudden spike in AP damage. The 120 or the 305s of the Agir obviously punching through the Neptune quite easily. I have basically chunked him down to 0 though. Kamikaze at 13 km. I have to say this 1,000-meter shell velocity, or 1,000 meter per second shell velocity, is kind of busted. He's reversing for some reason, but with my Des Moines reload, as I mentioned, easily correct. Okay, I thought he was accelerating, but apparently he decided he didn't like that. So he's decided to stop for a second, putting some chip damage onto him. Now the Kitakaze does not take full AP pens at all, so no point using AP, and I'm using 180s anyway, so I don't actually overmatch. Damage is not the most impressive this match, but I did not farm that many heavies. I just have the one Amagi fire, really. Looks like this Kita's going for a YOLO on my own Agir, who has popped a Hydro, but he's probably too sluggish to effectively dodge. Gets reload boosted and eventually does catch the Kitakaze torpedo, although it looks like his secondaries have put some hurt onto that Kitakaze. Staying very far at the back, you'll note. I think I could have pushed up more aggressively this game. Certainly I would be able to contest the enemy Nevsky, which was railing on me from range. Bit sad that I'm going to be under 6 digits. But I did not really feel challenged at all. And unlike the Donskoi, who in a match like this would probably be quite challenged to put out damage, I feel that even with my reduced barrel count, the rail shells just have so much effective damage because you don't miss as much. That doesn't matter. Didn't really feel the IFHE that much. In terms of reducing my fire chance, I imagine I would have maybe 8 fires, I guess. But I haven't been shooting that much at BBs. Which maybe leaves something to be said. If I'm not going to shoot at battleships that much, maybe I don't need the IFHE. Hoping to get 3,000 damage off onto this enemy Jean Bar. He's kind of broadside to me at this angle, so I'm going to switch to AP. Sadly, even with my insane shell speed, none of them connect. And now I'm going to beach myself because I wasn't paying attention. So it looks like no kills for me today. But my team will clean up the match, which is, well, perhaps the more important indicator. And that's that, the Alexander Nevsky. It's a pretty nice mission setup. 144 shell hits, 6 in caps, 4 fires, 1 spotting ribbon. Not too impressive team score wise, team kind of just stomped all over them. Detailed report wise though, a pretty even mix of AP and HE, most of my AP damage of course coming from this Agir who decided to turn full broadside in front of us, but some on the Amagi and Bismarck as well. Now we were top tier this match inside of 8 to 10 matchmaking, so I don't necessarily know if there isn't more I could have done. Just gonna stack some flags by the way with this camo, just to be a little more efficient. By the way, I'm pretty sure I probably didn't make money off that match. Didn't do quite enough damage. Okay, I would have made 8,000 if I was not on premium time. That was an interesting first game. It has some promise, certainly. Let's see if we can do a little more. Maybe I was a little too passive that first match. Certainly I was staying at range because I was reluctant to engage and potentially overcommit myself in a light cruiser. The Donskoi that comes before, certainly, is not well equipped for pushing. So this enemy team has Gaishu, who's quite a well-known commodity within the community. So I don't have any expectations for this game. We're probably going to lose, but we'll do our best and see what we can get out of our Nevsky. Quite a bit of Nevsky in this match, and someone was rocking a Moskva, which has now become a reward ship. The former Tier 10 Heavy that is going to be replaced by the Petropavlovsk. Spawning on the map. Haven, modes domination, pure Tier 10s, so I guess ask and you shall receive. Only 2 Shimikazes, or 2 destroyers, sorry. One of which is a Shimikaze. Oh, mind the phone in the background. Superstructure-wise, Nevsky has fairly minimalistic superstructure. It actually reminds me a lot of the Smolensk, or like a stretched out Grozvoy. Oh, this radar set's actually kind of a nice touch. It's a nice detail here. A Nevsky is in range. I have HE loaded. He's reversing. See if he has propulsion module, how quickly he responds. He also has the permacam already, so he may be a bit of a whale. I have radar coverage of most of the cap from this position. One of the destroyers is contesting, but you're contesting against a Nevsky. Rivered angles are not fantastic. I am gonna just blind fire this position until otherwise needed. If this Smolensk allows me to. It's very thinly armored. Ooh, that was a nice tight dispersion salvo. Gonna get all my guns online first. Not afraid to take a little bit of damage. And there's a Shimikaze who's gonna contest my 1000 meter per second shells. Duck out on most of the GK salvo. And with the speed of my shells and the number of allies nearby, I should have no trouble destroying this Shimikaze. I missed because I failed to note that he's accelerating. His engine is broken, however, and I have another 13 seconds. And unlike the Donskoi, which has fairly low DPM, my DPM's kind of high. ETCPs, damage control parties. Not quite able to eliminate him immediately because I missed that salvo. And I'm going to take a raking salvo from the battleship over there. And I lose a booster on the other side, unfortunately. Gaishu on the border. Might actually want that range module. This thing certainly has the ballistics to make use of it. It also gave me more time to pause and aim between salvos. It's going to be very difficult for ships to get into the cap. Given the current environment, there's a million radars. My Moskva's not close enough to radar, and my other Nevsky's out on the border. My Hindenburg is approaching the cap, but he won't be able to stop the Shimikaze necessarily. Just gonna blind fire his last known position. Oh, an enemy Nevsky pops up. He's reversing. I'm kind of broadsiding, so I can see why he would use AP. Set of fire, he punishes me with AP. Get punched a little bit. Possibly a citadel, possibly some penetrations. The Shimikaze gets spotted by something. And that is a Venezia. Smolensk spotted. Torps gliding past me. Switching back to HG here. Good. Thankfully this captain has expert loader. He's so low there's no point risking the AP. So I may as well just use HE. And that's gonna be a combined team frag. Venezia Sap gonna nail me for quite a bit of damage. Now we still don't have a cap, we do have a destroyer kill though. Nice flat Venezia, that's gonna bring myself up to speed first. I do outspot the Venezia if he's doing the rudder spec stuff. Hope he's in cover though. Looks like someone popped a radar. Can't get onto it. Looking for the Venezia. Don't expect to hit him with these 8-kilometer torpedoes, but you never know. Not quite flat, but he's somewhat angled, which is why I'm using HE. There's a Des Moines as well, but we're going to deal with the Vin first. The Vin has rail shells just like me. He's more of a threat. 400, 3 shatters on his 40mm plates. Even with IFHE, I only reach about 38mm of penetration. He has gun bloom, so his smoke will do nothing. He's also inside of my 12 km radar because the Nevsky has traditional Donskoi radar. Gonna pop radar. There's no escaping here. The rearward angles are pretty good. Not doing nearly as much damage. This thing doesn't seem to farm that much damage either. Similar to the Moskva, I suppose you could say. Gonna pop a heal. We did manage to secure the cap with the help of the Holland. But we're gonna have to push downward. We are up a couple of ships, so we have a bit of a lead. I'm liking the utility role, and the fast rate of fire does, even with the lesser barrel count, does seem to be superior to having a greater barrel count, at least for the DD destroying duties, similar to the concept of the Ochakov at tier 8. I've burned through 2 radar charges now. Enemy Holland is harassing us. There is a lot of radar in this match, just saying, so any destroyer is going to have a difficult time. There were 5 on my side. I had a Wooster as well. Now we're down to 4, and there's still 3 on the enemy team. So, there were 4 on the enemy team. They lost one of their Nevskys. Battleship, but it's a Yamato's broadsiding. I think at least in competitive though, if there's going to be any sort of battleship targets at all on the enemy team, you are going to have to take IFHE. Fire chance reductions or not. He's angling because, yeah, just slight angling from the enemy battleship means he'll start doing 0 damage with HE. The real question is though, will it matter? Because the IFHE only allows me to damage extremities. Yamato firing at me, by the way. Deck armor not able to resist the Yamato because my deck armor is only 30. Got fire in spite of my IFHE. Did get a 4K salvo earlier, so any of those shells that hit his nose there as he slows down will be assisted by IFHE. Gonna pop a heal in case he dunks shells through my deck armor, but I'm able to dodge out of most of it with my high speed. Bring my forward turrets over, and this repub on the other hand is actually a viable farm target. Thanks to my FHE, which it wouldn't otherwise be. Because I will get full pens on his 32mm plate. There's a fire for me. Still waiting for my rear turret, so might be worth taking the turret first module. Hope he shot at me. Doesn't seem to enjoy being farmed. I think my icebreaker actually bounced one of his shells. Take some torpedoes, and he's still angled. He has 20-second reload, however, so now that I'm spotted, might want to get myself into cover. looking for fire because he DCP'd. Just want to finalize the kill. I probably could just use AP in this situation though. Targeted by 3. He's partially secondary spec as indicated by secondaries firing at 10 kilometers. AP salvo did 3k, not bad. I'm gonna take my guns offline for the most part. Someone else is gonna have to deal with him. So now I'm bowing with only 2 guns, which is not great. I'm not a Des Moines, certainly. The ballistics are extremely comfortable, however. Nothing particularly egregious about this ship so far. Maybe I'm misusing it. Someone's asking Gaishu if he's using range mod, which I think it might actually be right. Oh, no, he's on reload. I guess someone's just amazed by the long range then. Do manage to finally score fire with just my front guns. That Holland is now inside my radar. See if I can finally score a kill. Oh, nope. Not that one anyway. Plenty of targets in range. I'm just in a position of cover. And as Gaishu said, ouch. Take a pretty heavy hit from the Yamato, I think. But this is Gaishu and one of his sub-clans, I believe. But you saw there, they were discussing the viability of range module, which I think is actually quite decent. Now, I had an extra 20k HP moments ago to play with, but I appear to have expended it, thanks to the Yamato. So I'm gonna have to be a bit careful here. He fired. So now I have to just angle for the GK first. The forward firing arcs are not that poor. I'm giving a fair amount of broadside to GK, so I am a little bit concerned for my life, but no matter. The increased shell volume just means that you can compensate and fight through the IFHE fire chance penalty quite a bit more easily. Without it, I wouldn't be able to damage these Montanas and GKs and such. And that repub would not have taken nearly as much damage from me. Again, the lack of range mod means I have to cease fire on that target though. I think I will equip range module at this point. The reload is really nice. But more importantly, as you can see in the commentary in the background as we're discussing the Nevsky, the retention of shell velocity, the retention of that 1000 meters a second shell velocity is good enough that... Okay, the Yamato fired, I think. I'm hoping those weren't his secondaries. AP because he's broadside. The retention of shell velocity with both ammunition types is such that I'm quite comfortable. Ooh, nice 4K chunk. Now having 5.3 second reload, definitely nice, but... He's shooting me, by the way, in case you didn't notice. It's not necessary. 8k HP means I might die. Nope. He's just giving me an adrenaline rush boost. And now I'm in cover. But the AP has enough penetration power to beat out a Yamato's armor scheme. But at 11.2, he's in danger of ranging me out at this point. And my team will win another match by pointing them out without me having to do too much. This time I did put my hull at a little more risk, but as you can see on this larger map, we did not really get to do all that much in terms of game impact. There were several moments during the game when I wished I had range, so I think at this point I'm actually going to switch over. Gaiju having quite the game compared to the rest of his team. His Shimakaze obviously not having a great day. But yeah, at this point, having played the two games, I'm actually going to switch over to range. Because I don't think I need the extra reload that much. 16% range means that not only am I going to improve my turret traverse, but I'm also going to bring my range out to 22 kilometers. And so with that said, we'll play one last game with the range module, just to get a sense of consistency. Thus far though, I am relatively impressed. So, last match, hopefully. I don't really care if we win or lose, I just want to check the efficacy of the range module. I am very happy that we did win the last few matches though. Carrier in the game, but remember, we looked over that. We looked over the AA briefly, and I have fairly long range at 6.9, and it's not the strongest, but it is fairly strong. I imagine if I took just BFT to amplify the percentage points by a little bit, it would actually be quite effective. It was high 200s, low 300s in terms of AA damage, so that would get it to semi-Wooster level. Wooster sits at about 440 with BFT and AA module, so going to about 350 with just BFT, but having 6.9 kilometer range would be decent. Kind of like Des Moines levels of AA, I would expect. Not approaching or going around the border, by the way, because my ship's not suited to brawling. Instead, I'm gonna stay at range. Especially now that I have the luxury of having much longer range with 22 kilometers. Just gonna bide my time. I would like to shoot this Fletcher. My Donskoi is playing quite riskily, but he's fairly far from range on that Fletcher. My thinking is, though, that I might blind fire it. He manages to touch the range now by diving a little deeper. So 17 kilometers, I'm shooting the Fletcher, not leading that much. He turned out, though. He's forced on the cap. I don't connect any of my shells personally. Oh, actually I do. With a blind fire shell of all things, so kind of showing off the shell velocity again. I've put myself into an awkward position, however, but the enemy has a sizable force to the south, and we've lost our DD there to a torpedo from the Holland. That's going to complicate things. There's a Cossack, but he's being radared by a Des Moines. And there's a Holland and Montana who should hose him down. They get a reset. Probably the Holland, based on the amount of damage he took before the reset. But anyway, we've pushed north into a relatively poor position, where in spite of my 22 kilometers of range I can't hit anything, but I have 36 knots of speed, so I'm going to re-engage quickly. It is one of the appreciable pros of the Donskoi. Overall, the model is quite detailed. This is a nice touch. I really enjoy it. This bobbing radar set in the middle. My GK is attempting to take a cap from a Holland by himself with an Enterprise in the game. This seems foolhardy at best. And that GK is actually in range at this point. And apparently nothing is inside of my 22 kilometers of range to spot me. I'm gonna harass the enemy Donskoi. We lose vision, unfortunately. That GK is not long for this world, considering where the rest of his backup is. I'm gonna try and get over there to back him up. Oh, Fletcher touching the cap again. Not sure I can cap dive in time to stop it. Spotted now, which is interesting. I didn't have gun bloom, but it's very brief, so I imagine he rounded the corner here. Yeah. Oh, I didn't account for him reversing, but I do manage to hit him hard enough that I can get the resets. My Missouri had HE loaded for some reason. Don't quite manage to land enough shells to kill him personally. So unfortunately he's gonna limp away. Donskoi on the other side of this island chain, by the way. There's a Yamato in the distance who can shoot me. This one, that's beside his Enterprise. For the record. Looks like I can't shoot over that. I mean, certainly he's in range for me, so... Oh, those are probably for me. I have a rather unimpressive turning circle, looks like. Missouri's just shoving in and trying to give this Fletcher a piece of his mind. If he aimed properly, I'll just die, but at 20 kilometers, even for him, it's kind of difficult. Fletcher dies. Missouri's in a weird spot now, though, so... Now, without IFHA, I wouldn't pen the Yamato basically at any location from this angle, except superstructure. At this point, I'm penning just his bow and stern in superstructure. But at 19 kilometers, it's quite comfortable. Is he reversing? I think he's reversing. It's laughable considering his position's already fairly conservative. There is a fighter coming in, or sorry, a torpedo bomber squadron. I am going to pop my defensive fire here for my Yamato buddy. And one of the advantages of having good long-range AA is that your flak engages the enemy planes over a very long period of time. And with 8 flak puffs, well, it's actually quite an impressive number. There is a Holland right beside me, which I do not appreciate. My radar's up in 10 seconds. Set another fire on the Yamato. Donskoi's shooting me, I don't care about Donskoi. I can also shoot that carrier potentially, but my priority is the Holland. Rail slugs easily slamming him. I am seeing a bit of that dispersion people talk about at range. However, I've pushed him away quite a bit. Donskoi trading fire with me before slipping away into the night. My high speed means I dodged the Georgia shells easily. The Yamato's out of range now, having reversed. But this Massachusetts certainly isn't. And this GK trying to take some pot shots at me, but his 20-kilometer base range means I'm at the edge of his range, which means his dispersion must be fairly poor. Again, without IFHE, I wouldn't be able to rail on these bow-in battleships. Haven't done so much in the way of damage, but we were able to contribute to the death of the Fletcher and damage this Holland, who is now revealed by planes. He's slowing down, but slowing down versus 1,000 meter per second shells seems inadvisable. Me slowing down in front of a bunch of battleships also seems somewhat inadvisable though. Accelerating. I've separated from my Missouri somewhat, so he's kind of on his own in terms of AA. But he's with the Moskva now, so I imagine he's not too concerned, and well, 22 kilometers of range is a hell of a drug. Without really noticing it, I've kind of pushed to the back of the map, because I don't feel like I'm at the edge of my range just because of how high my shell velocity is. This Donskoi, for example, I'm well outside his engagement range. Even with range module, he only reaches about 19 kilometers. And over long range, you can see the performance is easily such that I can nail this Holland with shells. He's gonna beach. There's almost no way he makes that. Apparently no one is in gun range of him though, so he's gonna get away. We'll shoot at the Donskoi until he gets spotted by aircraft. He's accelerating. I do hit the Donskoi at range as well, by the way. Something shoots at me. Okay, there's multiple somethings shooting at me, apparently. Nevsky being an aggravant. Was this a Minotaur? Oh, he's thinly armored. More than happy to shoot you. Oh, he phased into concealment. Well, more than happy to shoot you. My shells in the Minnow are a bit short at that range. But no matter. We have 4 kilometers of range still to make a course correction. Only 55,000 damage. Again, we're still nowhere close to the border of the map. With my flat Russian shells, though, not quite able to make that gap. We have cap control, so they have to push in. It's just they're not pushing in. They're just staying at the bottom of the map. Battleship's taking pot shots at me. And there's that Nevsky. I think I am going to turn around and re-engage him. Oof. Some battleship shells putting damage onto me. And the Holland crossing the corner against me seems a questionable choice at best. I'm going to ignore the Donskoi for a bit. Yes, he could AP my side, but not too concerned. As an object slams against my window. Okay, that is concerning, obviously. Don't know what shot me there, the GK. Irritating. Cool guys don't look at explosions. And at this point I want to leave the engagement range of the Donskoi. Enterprise sending planes after me, which is why I'm not trying to fade into concealment at all. Just gonna defensive fire here. Really doesn't interest me. And at this point I've shredded enough of a squadron that I'm probably gonna make it out. Just waiting for my gun bloom to fade. And I should be out, as long as I don't get lit on fire. Turning circle is fairly poor. But you can see there again the perks of having 6.9 kilometer AA range means they just engage fairly quickly. The guns, that is. Not doing so hot in terms of damage, but we are playing a defensive. And finally we clean up the other destroyer. Donskoi forced to run. I have my DCP back up, so at this point I'm comfortable shooting. My heal's up in 10 seconds as well. And even though I can quite comfortably engage him, his shells, while having good velocity, aren't 1000 meters per second, and more importantly, his less modern 180mm rifles have a lot more shell drag. So I'm just railing him from concealment while my carrier spots him. He has been shooting as well. Oh, also by the way, we finally picked up a kill between the two matches that we played previously. He's reversing towards us. Pretty standard Donskoi behavior. I mean, that's what we're doing, basically. He's going to accelerate away now. They do pick up 2 kills. 5,000 HP. I wouldn't call his dispersion at range poor, but it's not great. And that Yamato we were harassing. Right now we're sitting at an average damage of about 80,000. So, we'd like to do a little more this match, just to push that average damage up. Managed to steal a frag. And I'm going to push around the corner. I have 2 heals left, so I'm going to use 1 in case that GK dumps a bunch of damage into me. Looks like, though, because I'm playing relatively safe and the GK has his guns pointed toward me, I'm not going to be doing very much for the rest of the match. So all in all, this range module thus far, I am liking it. This guy's pushing me, by the way. So best not to come out fully broadside. Thankfully we're back up to 18,000, and remember we have that 40mm icebreaker, so even though we have 25mm light cruiser armor, should be fairly resistant. Just dump torps toward him. Adjust our angle, and we will be on our merry way. It's actually quite flat, so I'm going to try the AP. He breaks a turret, which I don't like. Good thing we fired our torpedoes already. The secondaries break a gun, irritatingly enough. Fired a couple of times now, so his turrets are probably back. Getting a lot of over penetrations actually. 17 seconds to my heal. Down to 2 guns. That quick fire has allowed me to stack up damage rather rapidly though. Oh, didn't dodge in time I think. Probably dead here. And finally I am gonna die. But we'll get up to 110,000. All in all though, as you can see in close quarters versus a battleship, at the kind of HP I was at, with the secondaries railing on me as well, providing additional fires, not the greatest performer, just like the Donskoi that comes before her. I'm not particularly worried about this game because we're very high points to the point where 1 cap is going to win the game. But overall I would say, didn't really notice an appreciable decrease in damage. I actually did more damage than one of the games that we played earlier, where I had reload module even with my range module, just because I'm able to engage more effectively over this large map. So I think my preferred spec after these 3 games is going to be the range module. Thoughts though? I definitely would prefer IFHE, especially in randoms where you do have to engage battleships, but even for competitive, even though IFHE doesn't actually help you engage parts of armor other than battleship plate, as it gets bow in battleships, it's important to have that option. So 112,000 damage for this one, 177 shells, mostly HE again. 8 planes shot down, remember that long range 6.9 kilometer AA with 8 flak puffs, also quite impressive. Interesting, you're in steel now. Two kills, 5 incaps, 4 fires, 3 defender ribbons, and 1 spotting ribbon. Team score wise, second ribbon top with another 1900, so not too bad. First game was disappointing in terms of my placement, but this game not so shabby. 1700 AP in terms of shooting mostly AP into the broadside GK, but just recall over the course of this game engaging that Holland at between 15 to 17 kilometers from the edge of the map on the Atlantic, so and also engaging this Yamato with HE at maximum range. So that 1000 meter per second shell velocity definitely very, very powerful as a tool. Also, I lost turrets several times that match, which was kind of annoying. So these are relatively thinly armored turrets, so I would imagine that if you get close quarters with, say, a Des Moines, he's going to go for your guns, and these should be fairly easy to knock out. The Des Moines guns, for example, which are fairly good at knocking each other out at, say, sub 10 kilometer ranges. Well, I don't have a Des Moines right now, I'm regrinding, but I have a Salem. The Des Moines turret face is quite a bit thicker at 203, so definitely a very thinly armored turret mount. But overall, I enjoyed the build. I didn't really notice the IFHE penalty that much just because of the sheer volume of fire. Gun angles are kind of poor. I wouldn't say they're great, but they're sufficient. But yeah, that was my first impression of the Alexander Nevsky. Definitely a very powerful tier 10. Just the sheer shell velocity and the versatility of having the Russian radar and just having that long range AA as well just makes her a very powerful mid to long range unit, I would imagine. So I would anticipate her having some place in the future competitive meta, so definitely a ship worth grinding for. With that said, that'll be all for now. I hope you enjoyed my first impressions of the Alexander Nevsky, and I will catch you all later. Cheers.